Hey Steve,
Hey, Kevin.
how are you?
All right. What are you on campus over there? Are you in your backyard? Where you at?
I'm on campus. I have a little hotspot I'm working on, so I'm hoping the Wi-Fi is good enough.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. And are you still you're director of graduate support? So how has your job changed? Is things more virtual these days? What are the changes in the job?
Yeah, I should probably explain to the audience a little bit about what we do. I lead the graduate support team at St. James School. So I have two full-time colleagues and we work full-time with our graduates. So St. James School is a grade school for grades 4 through 8. So my team's full-time effort is to prepare our students and families for life after St. James School. That starts in 8th grade from the time my colleague Mandisa meets with every family and helps them decide what high schools their students are going to apply to. She walks with each family and student through the entire high school application process. And then it continues throughout high school. We spend a huge chunk of our time engaging with our high school partners, making sure that our kids at their respective schools are doing what they need to do to stay on track, making sure they're going to school every day, not getting in trouble, doing their work, all that kind of stuff. I spend a good part of my time with the oldest graduates who are seniors in high school and in their first years of post-secondary. We intentionally use the word post-secondary and not college because we know that college is not for every young person. So it's really our goal that every St. James graduate pursues some type of post-secondary training or education. So that could be vocational school, it could be work on the job training, or it could be a 4-year college or community college. So uh, during COVID, things have changed quite a bit. I mean, a huge part of our program is every day we have an after-school study hall that runs from about 3:30 till 6:30. So we're a neighborhood school, so all of our students and families live close to St. James. Therefore, after high school, it's convenient for them to come by. They can come upstairs to our office, have food, have the Wi-Fi, the computers, and get their work done. That obviously hasn't happened.
Yeah. So how does that? What do you? Is there some virtual replacement for that? I mean, how is that? I mean, I would imagine the surrounding area they're under resourced, so I don't imagine there's a lot of Wi-Fi or digital access at home. Correct?
Yeah, so a huge part of our work since we've been on lockdown is bridging the digital divide that we talk about a lot in our world. Um, many of our students and families don't have internet, don't have computers at home. Luckily, some of our high school partners have done a great job stepping up during COVID, and some of them provided laptops for the kids. So one of the first things my team did when we were in lockdown was we touched base with every one of our graduates and made sure they have Wi-Fi and a computer at home. So for Comcast, if you're familiar, they have a Comcast Essentials program where for low-income families they can get Wi-Fi for $10 a month. Now the issue happens if they have an outstanding Comcast bill that's years old, they can't sign up. So one thing we did was we just made sure that we paid for anyone who had a outstanding bill so they could get connected quickly. Um, we also make sure that everyone had a laptop. So every St. James graduate now has a laptop. They're connected to the internet. They've been able to do their work since they were sent home for quarantine. Um, that was a huge effort. So
Mm-hmm.
we also, Fabian, who is my other colleague, he runs a weekly virtual study hall where every week we get on, we help them with homework. They can talk about the issues they're having with school. What's great is we have multiple graduates at many different high schools. So the West Catholic kids can all get together on Zoom and talk about the issues they're having with one another. During the George Floyd protests, they had really great conversations the last week just about, his death and police brutality and the subsequent protests.
Mm-hmm.
So it also creates a forum for just support with one another, and that kind of thing.
Do you have, speaking of the protests, how does that, I mean, you have to, obviously these discussions come right to the surface regardless of what you're doing, right? I mean, how do you engage in those kind of conversations?
Yeah, I mean, racial justice is obviously something that's kind of core to our mission at St. James. So, demonstrating, speaking out is not something that's foreign to any of our students or our graduates. We've been involved in the women's marches over the years and lots of other anti-gun protests and demonstrations. But these were obviously of a different nature, and the protests and the riots and the violence that's occurred is like come straight to the doorstep of a lot of our graduates. So some of our graduates who live out in West Philly, they had tear gas in their living rooms in the middle of the day a couple weeks ago. So we made sure that we reached out to all the kids we knew who were close to that stuff, and made sure that they all had something to do and felt safe where they were.
Yeah, I read David Kasevich, the head of school's message from June 2nd, and what particularly moved me about it was his emphasis on action, not just having discussions, not just reading the history of racism and familiarizing yourself with it, which of course is very important, but I think that whole getting into action and how you engage with people and actually do more than just protest and carry the sign, go and actually talk to other white people or engage in meaningful conversations.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we just started doing during the last couple of weeks. Anti-racism training and is something that we do every year during staff orientation, and then we have our racial equity team continues that work throughout the school year periodically. So we are always kind of working on different anti-racism homework and different conversations around race amongst our staff and amongst our volunteer and community as well.
Yeah, and on a side note, we will eventually get to our inclusivity training.
Yeah.
It'll take a little bit of time, but yes, we were still on the lockdown, obviously, in Germantown at the Germantown Friends School, but that is still on the radar, and we're still going to get Andre involved.
Good.
To find out again, because being white people, I would love to be able to better engage and better discuss these issues, not with people of color, but also I think some of the protests we've been to talk about how it's people of color, it's their time to speak and it's their time to this and that. My opinion is they've been speaking forever, for a long time, and it's now time for people who are not people of color to start to say, let's look at the white privilege. Let's look at the way that this system is actually built on the white privilege.
Right. Yeah. People of color didn't create the issues that we're having today. It was white people. So yeah, I think white people need to have a conversation amongst themselves that we're really not having very much.
Right. Yeah. And then I guess just to get back to the, I'm kind of interested in the digital access component. Yeah. Is that what the hub is that you're working on right now? Is that some way of kind of getting a local signal for?
Yeah. So, I actually, part of bridging the digital divide that we've been working on regardless before COVID, we have a couple partnerships with different mobile carriers who give us deals on cell phones because if a kid doesn't have a cell phone, it's really hard for me and my team to support them and help them. So we make sure that we can communicate with everybody. When lockdown first happened, that carrier reached out to me and said, hey, we have this incentive program where we give everyone free hotspots. They only cost like $20 a month. So when we were trying to get everyone connected, we got a bunch of free hotspots that we distributed out to make sure the kids could stay connected. It's also it would be really easy in this time for us to be like, well, we can't meet with the kids in person. Let's just wait until this is all over. But our team has really pushed each other to not kind of use lockdown as an excuse not to support and work with the kids. So we've really pushed ourselves and the kids and our parents to let's just continue everything on Zoom and doing what we're doing right now. It's not perfect, but we've gotten pretty good at it. And we're really examining how we can use some of the lessons we're learning under quarantine when we all come back in person. There's no reason why we can't do college counseling sessions like this for kids who might have moved to West Philly or South Philly or something like that. So that's been pretty interesting, and the kids are getting good at Zoom and we're getting better at it. And it's been interesting.
That's cool because we interviewed Renee Cunningham from Center in the Park in Germantown, which is sort of a facility that engages older people in the neighborhood. And they have found that Zoom has actually been adopted much more readily and easily than they had ever imagined. And now they think going forward, their model is going to include much more of that. They've been getting actually better attendance at some of the classes than they ever had when they were in person.
Yeah.
So it's neat.
Yeah, it's also really important. So I have a cohort of about 10 young people who are graduating high school now who are going to be starting college in September. And the one thing I've been telling them is you guys also have to take what we're doing now seriously, because we don't know what your schooling is going to look like in the fall. We really hope you get to be on campus and have the experience, but we need to get really good at distance learning because we might have to do this in the future again.
Yeah, it's possible. There could be, a friend of mine who works down at one of the mutual fund companies said he's not required to go back until October. So they're certainly playing it very conservatively. And there might well be, and obviously flu season coming up in the fall. So who knows what that's going to look like.
And I'll say colleges are doing, the colleges that we work with anyway, just to name a few, Holy Family, Community College of Philadelphia, Ursinus, some of them are doing a really great job being proactive and touching base with their incoming freshmen, because to be honest, they're really feeling a lot of anxiety and nervousness around the fall, because many of them have been preparing and working hard to live on campus, and the fear of not being able to do that is really causing a lot of strife. So some of these colleges, just to give Ursinus and Holy Family a shout out, they've been doing, the two of them in particular have been really proactive in reaching out to me and reaching out to the kids themselves to make sure that, they have everything they need. They're getting counseling if they feel like they need counseling virtually. They've really done an amazing job, and same with some of our high school partners as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that support system. It seems that's you're constantly building that system. You're constantly keeping that structure underneath the students to be able to help them to get to that next step, which I always think is great about St. James as well. You're very proactive in that regard.
Yeah, the competitive advantage that my team has when we're supporting like first generation college students through all these transitions from 8th grade to 9th grade, from 12th grade to college, is we've known these students and their families from the time the kids are 9 years old in 4th grade. So we have 5 or 6 years of building relationships and building trust, so that when we have these difficult transitions, they have a community that they're familiar with. It's not some random brand new person they have to start with. That's the whole philosophy behind my team and my department's mission.
Yeah, and I've actually seen you do other things in terms of going to like mock job interviews and bringing in people to sit down with them to say, okay, these are the kind of questions you're going to get, and this is what you're going to need to know to go in.
We do 2 really interesting interview workshops every year for the middle school kids, for the 7th and 8th graders, that my colleague Mandisa organizes. So just last week, she wrapped up the 7th grade interview workshop, which normally we would have at Penn Charter. We bring in professionals who dress up in suits and make it very official. Mandisa did an amazing job adjusting on the fly, and she created these virtual Zoom interviews, because that's what people are doing now. They're doing interviews over the computer. So we had like almost every 7th grader participate in a virtual Zoom interview. They got feedback, and it was just a different way to do it, but we did it that way this time.
That's neat. That's I love to hear that kind of thing. So I appreciate you making time. Is there anything else that you wanted to highlight? Any other issues, topics, any important news coming up, anything like that?
That's a good question. So our oldest graduates now are finishing their first year of post-secondary. So we've started a college scholarship fund for some of our college-going kids. This year we raised $33,000 to support 10 of them. And that money is last dollar scholarships to fill in gaps in their financial aid. So all of our graduates are first-generation college students. Many of them cannot come out of pocket for anything for college, which really is a major barrier. So the goal of that little fund is to fill in gaps for kids who have worked really hard and deserve to go to college, but just don't simply have the money. So a couple of friends of the school did a great job this year on the fly, adjusting our fundraising efforts. And we're really happy to support a couple kids going to college next year, a couple of our graduates.
That's very cool. And is that something that people can still contribute to, or this is something that's already occurred?
So I'll send you the links when we're done, but this year's round is pretty much wrapping up, but we're going to start off again for next year's senior class pretty soon. So I'll make sure you guys know about that.
Okay, we can include that under the, with this, when we put up the link online, we can put that link in there as well to give people an idea about where they can go to help out.
Yep, and there'll be some news coming up about our building. We have some exciting news that we're going to announce soon about expanding our physical building here on campus soon.
Oh, very cool. All right, and in parting, congratulations again on getting married.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Well, you take
4
care.
months in, we're still married.
Yeah. Okay.